All right. Good morning, good peoples. Let's jump in here for YBIT and BITO. Okay, BTC is still struggling, kind of hanging in there. BITO actually went up, or sorry, BITO went down 0.94. Okay, and YBIT went up 0.65. So that's nice. We went up 10 cents and they went down 19 cents. So obviously we're not capped. We're looking pretty good. We did get a little bit of share purchase, so we got 75,000. So people are continuing to add this, and one of the statistics is it simply has a high IV and they're paying out well for the NAV price. What we want and need is for BTC to recover and get moving so that we can catch up. I'll show you when I get to payment. So we continue to write calls. Naked calls, and we continue to write synthetics when money flows in, but we're way under. We're writing at $20 and $21, and we're at, we're writing at 20 and 21 on 35 synthetic. So ultimately you got to pay the piper, right? We can keep rolling, and I think that's what the fund managers are doing. They're allowing this to accrue money and then rolling that debt. Once they see Bitcoin move, then I think they'll move the BITO synthetic to a much more reasonable range and let them earn it sort of on the way up. So that's kind of how I see them playing it. Not a bad strategy because you're dealing with an asset that's has been the best performer over the last couple of years. It's a very volatile asset. So it's certainly near support. I can show you when we get to the chart, but I don't rule out a visit to 50 or 52K as I mentioned. And if we break that, the big, all-important 44.6 is looming there. But 50 to 52 is pretty major support. So far, we've only gotten into the 53s and went right back up. But until I see around 61, I don't really feel like we're out of any danger. 61, 62 says, we're going in the right direction, and now we have sort of a reasonable floor. So that's what I got for you for price action. Let's go look at the details of earnings. So they wrote these 500 contracts, and I'll show you the synthetic at the 35 strike price. So they wrote this at 21 up, and they went out 1 week, right? Since it was a Wednesday, they could have written it this week, but considering they got 35 cents here, they probably would have gotten 10 or 12 cents. So I agree with them there, and they're at least laddering a little bit by going out. They could have written at 20 and a half and gotten more money, but frankly, if Bitcoin recovers, they're going to blow right by that and cost them money. So kudos to the fund manager on that. So let's go look at the synthetic position. So here's our 500 contracts, and you see what I mean, right? We buy the call for a penny, we sell the put for 15.51. Well, look where the 15 is coming from. You have a little bit of time premium out to 8.2, but $14.93 is, extrinsic in the money, right? I forget intrinsic and extrinsic, but bottom line, it's in the money, out of the money value, because we're at $20 and we're writing a 35 put, which in these flex, if you watch my video interview with Howard Chan of Curve, I talked about that a little bit explicitly. And what happens now, we get Jay when he comes on and talks about YIELDMAX, and Jay's in that sub-advisor role. He's an expert on options, and he manages the option team that services YIELDMAX. They have their own private clients. They do some work for Defiance and maybe another. So when I talk to Howard, they use NEO or NEOS So they are kind of like a Zega with J, and they do the work. So while Howard doesn't see every trade, they kind of put the strategy together, and I thought it was interesting. He said they have the choice to do covered calls, real covered calls, owning the stock, and or doing the synthetics. For the most part, what they've chosen to do is do the synthetics. But as you listen to that interview, and I'll stop in a second on that, if you haven't, go to it. I think it's worthwhile seeing. They're using a quarterly roll tactic, right? So they write their synthetic long stock a quarter at a time, right? 3 months. And then monthly they roll. So in some ways, they're able to capture in a high movement more premium. Normally, 4 weeks add up to more premium than 1 month, but you can go out further in essence. In other words, you can get run by if you write a 5% out of the money for 1 week and it goes up 10, you got killed. And next week it goes up another 10 and you wrote 5 out of the money. So if you go right at 15, you might get killed in the first week, but you have the option of then writing more further out. So, and there's some economies of scale that you don't have to write as many. And as Howard said, you only have to be right 12 times a year, okay, on those. I almost said weeklies, but on those monthlies, and you kind of have to be right 52 times, which clearly YIELDMAX isn't. But I like both funds. I like the strategy. You know, if you like less NAV erosion, you know, you can pick a curve fund, and you really have to just look at them. Sometimes total return is favorable to curve. Sometimes total return is favorable to YIELDMAX. And YIELDMAX clearly tends to pay out more distributions. There's no question. It's just sometimes you get that NAV erosion along the way. Okay, sorry about the sidetrack, guys, but while it's fresh, I wanted to get that out. You know, and YBIT's a perfect case that I'm kind of happy that YIELDMAX is doing what they're doing. They're allowing us to collect money. Now, if it never performed, that's going to continue to eat the NAV, right? If BTC never goes up, this is going to go down to sub 10 and reverse split and have all that horror. But I don't personally feel like that's the direction of BTC, so I'm willing to buy it. But for others, you do have to look at that. So here we are with that. Let's look at the weekly. So now we see the 500 added at 21. We had the bulk at 2050, and at only 2009, we look pretty good, right? I mean, with 2 trading days, who knows? But I don't really see, unless, I'll tell you what, we've got CPI this morning. That's going to send gold. That's going to send interest rates. You know, that could certainly have an impact on the market and on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was kind of performing along with the market, but recently it hasn't been. Some people say it kind of front runs the market and then the market follows. So let's see. That would be something I think next week that it could impact us. So maybe CPI is neutral and then PPI on Friday affects us. But we're at that point where anything can send us a little bit up or down. I tell you what, the money flow, even though the volume isn't big, because most of those guys are out in the Hamptons enjoying their big summer homes, and you know, the big institutional money isn't trading that much, and if they are, they're just playing it back and forth with the algos to pick up money, right? And frustrating the retail buyers. So here we go. Here's the additional 22,920. Now we've captured 32% of the weekly total. And after today, if we stay below, say, 2020 or something, 2030, we'll have captured a lot more going into Friday. And again, we're kind of here at a good time for a bounce, right? We went up to 2028, pulled back to 2009. So it's not really faltering down below this line, which so far is a good sign, guys. All right, let's look at holdings, because holdings sort of tells the story. We're at 35 million loss. So how does that compare? Well, it's about even, right? 32, almost 33, 35. We're hovering. We're got 33, 30. So we've stayed in this same asset. And when you stay in the same strike price, it's easy to see your day-to-day movement. Now, this is kind of interesting. Fair value says 1555. Or sorry, it says 1531, and we're trading at 1555. And I kind of think that people are looking at YBIT like I would, that if I'm just not changing. I haven't added anymore, but I have a significant chunk in here, at probably an average of mid 17s. I'm not really bothered. I could certainly add and lower my cost basis a little bit, but considering I own Coney and a heck of a lot of Misty, I've got enough Bitcoin, and I actually own a little bit of Bitto, not too much. The underlying. So I've got enough crypto exposure to that all I need for now. So how we doing here, right? This is the detail behind the weekly summary. So we've captured 33% of the big guy, right? 20.5. All we got to do is stay below 20.5, and we collect the rest of this. Here we're up 10%, but again, we just wrote this right today for next week. Oh, you know what I should do here? I should color code this. This is my normal method to distinguish the data here. And this time I roll them together as if they're one on the total. And usually if this is a big number in a lot of contracts, I don't do that. So technically, when I say we've captured that much for the week, this 17.5 isn't in the same week, FYI. But I don't think many people care. All right, let's go to payouts. There's not much left here. So on payouts, again, they keep adding, right? When they wrote that money, we just added more. So this was in the dollar range. So we're following the same old song here, right? We had this almost $8 together. We paid $1.37. We had again almost $8. We paid $1.21. Now, in some fairness, the stock NAV has been going down. So if we stayed here in the 15s or 16s, which I don't think we will by, 8.6, right, in our next declaration, then if we run up $5, $6, $7 and don't really eventually cover, now interesting, that synthetic expires 8.2. But again, they could roll. So you're probably still looking at over $1 in the 15s or 16s, right? Probably closer to the dollar or the dollar and a nickel type thing. But what I'm really hoping is that we get going on Bitcoin. And I'll be the first to tell you guys on the chart, I've been pretty accurate on where the resistance and support is. And unless we get over 61, I don't feel like we're above resistance, right? So 50 and 52, that range is still calling. So we need to pony up and we need to get going. Okay, guys, that's what I got for you. So $2.09 total collected, and we've losing a penny here, right? So that means we're winning 210 over here. And if money flows in, that number is just going to keep going up because it looks like on the weeklies they'll capture that. Okay, guys, that's what I got for you. I got a lot more videos in the queue here to get out. All right. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Have a great day ahead. Bye for now.